Right, here we are at last. I'm going out for the first ride ever on my 1940 Matchless Model X 990cc V-twin side valve V-twin, and I'm really excited. So I've had big problems. I've serviced it all in one thing. I've had big problems getting it to start. I know that Frank, who I bought it from, was having problems starting it, and that turned out to be the magneto was faulty. I've had that reconditioned, new armature put in, and it starts right up. Unfortunately, I can't show you a picture of me starting it. I'll put the front camera on so you can hear it, but I'm just excited to get out now, so I'm not going to say much now. But obviously you've got your girder forks, no rear suspension. That's your rear suspension on the seat. Girder fork front suspension, side valve engine, so the valves are on the side, V-twin. You've got a dynamo there that provides the power. There's no ignition key because when you kick it over, the magneto goes around and provides a spark. Simple as that. I've got, it's beautiful. It's my first ride out ever, so fingers crossed. I've been around the block a couple of times just to check. Everything seems okay. So I'm going for it. I'm going out to Derbyshire for not doing a long run, but I'm going to do my first ever proper run. So I'm a bit excited, a bit worried as well, because it's an old bike, and there's a few problems with it. I'm not sure I got it perfectly tuned, number one, and number two, it's not charging the battery. I think there's something wrong with the dynamo. I need to check that, but that's okay because it will never affect the ignition because the ignition is magneto, totally separate. But I tend to ride with my headlamp on, and of course it's just going to be draining the battery because it's not charging. So, but I'm going to kind of ignore that today because I don't need the lights and that because the ignition is totally separate. So, but that's for another day. But yeah, I say this is a 1940 Matchless Model X. It's actually a bit of a hybrid. So we think the frame is 1937 and the engine is 1940. Apparently, just before the war, they stopped production. But we know that a few bikes were made with parts left over in the factory. And I think this is one of them, one of the very last ever made. It was actually registered in 1941. The engine's 1940, the frame's 1937, and it was registered in 41. So we're trying to do some sort of history on it now. Anyway, look, I'm not going to talk because I really want to get out there. I'll do some more talking about it at the end, but let's get out and get some riding done. First kick. Right, here's warm, mate. Well, I've had to cut the ride slightly short, and it's probably on the video. Everything seemed to be going okay, and then I was halfway up a big hill, and just suddenly it didn't want to know. It didn't want to know at all. And I don't know if it was fuel starvation. It suddenly just started, just didn't want to go. I suspect fuel starvation, but I don't know. It's got this aftermarket sort of fuel filter in, so I don't know if that's a problem. I'll have a look. But A, it was doing that, and B, the weather started to close in. It was horrible up there, and it's nice down here, but out in Derbyshire it looked pretty. It was all misty, and I was getting drizzle and stuff, and I thought, oh, stuff it. Bike obviously wasn't running right, and it's raining, so cut the losses and come back. But anyway, at least it's going. It's going, and the ride is actually surprisingly comfortable. I don't know if you can see in the video those forks going 10 to the dozen. They really soak up the unevenness of the roads, no problem. If you come to a really big bump, you don't want to hit a bump or a pothole. I discovered that really, it doesn't like that. But generally, it's a very comfy ride. I'm just, it's just at the moment that it's, there was something wrong there. I'm not quite sure what. Whether it's either the timing's still out. I've done all that, but it could be the timing's still out, or fuel starvation. I'm not quite sure which, because I was messing about with the choke, I was messing about with the advance and retard. Neither of them seem to kind of cure the problem really, but I just don't know. I'll have to try and investigate further, because it was running fine, and then suddenly I'm tooting along, all's good, and then suddenly, no, not having it. So not quite sure what happened there. Brakes adequate. Front brakes not bad. Rear brake interesting. Gears. No, the best thing I say about the gearbox is you can always find neutral. Neutral, no problem whatsoever. I mean, most bikes I've got, can you find neutral? First, second, first, second, first, second. But you can always find neutral. The weird thing about this gearbox, before I forget, is that it's 1 up and 3 down. Now, I've never had a 1 up and 3 down gearbox before. They've always been 1 down and 3 up or 4 up. But this is 1 up and 3 down. So I do have to, obviously it's on the right. All my other bikes now, it's all on the left, because these two have the left-hand gear change. They were the first of the left-hand gear change, the T160 and the 850 Mark III. But that's fine. I'm okay with it being on the right. But I do have to think about it being upside down. But you can always slip it into neutral. It's amazing. Yeah, it's great. But it really does. It's a very, shall we say, agricultural gearbox. Try and get some light on it. It's a bit agricultural, in and half clunk. I don't know if you heard it going into, when you're sitting at the lights and you put it into first, you know about it. But when it's moving, it's great. Anyway, I'm very pleased. I thought, I was just a bit, that everything seemed to be fine, and then it certainly wasn't. And then it started to vibrate. It got a massive vibration over the timing, so maybe the timing slipped. That could be it. I don't know. It was fine coming back, because I was just coming downhill. I loved it, because I turned round, because from my house really out to Derbyshire, it's just one long hill upwards, and I didn't want to know. When I got to the top, I thought, stuff this. The bike's not running right, obviously. The rain, the weather was closing in, so I turned around, and then it was like, it's downhill all the way, and the bike was like, oh, this is great. It was really smooth and nice, but it didn't. I don't know what happened going out. But it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. The engine is now running, it's starting really well, the engine's running, but obviously, it's not running right at the moment. But we'll get there. I think I've left half my boot on the silencer, because I cleared that sort of mark off a silencer yesterday. I thought it was a previous owner, but it's obviously me. I must be catching it. I must be catching it when I'm kicking it without realising it. I must kick it with my foot sort of skewed like that, rather than like that. Make a note of that once I've cleared that off again when it's cooled down. But yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there. So yeah, um, I just be. It's a shame. I really wanted a nice little run today, and the bike wasn't quite right, and B, the weather was horrendous out there. I mean, now here, look, it's really sunny. But it was kind of sunny when we left, but as soon as I hit the peaks out there, it was no, I didn't want to know. And of course, I've got to sort out this charging problem. I had the headlight on, but what happens is you put the headlight on, and it goes to discharge, and just stays on discharge. It never goes. It never. I've checked I've done a brief check on the dynamo, and it's showing 0.75 volts. That's the first check I've done. I'll check it again properly. There's another check I can do, but I'm fairly sure it's actual dynamo. It's got an up. This is the CVC unit, compensated voltage control unit, but this, of course, is actually electronic. It looks like the original unit, but is in fact a modern, a rectifier regulator. Well, it's not a rectifier, is it? I don't think you need one on a dynamo. I think you only need one on an alternator. Not quite sure, but anyway, that's the modern regulator in there, and so I don't think it's that. It's probably the actual dynamo itself, which is a pain because it's a total pain to get off. You have to take all the primary chain case apart, and on this bike, as I think I've said before, that means, sorry, the light's bad in here, but that means you've got to take this dome off first, then take the clutch off. Then you can get the rest of the primary chain case off. Then you can get to the dynamo chain. So you have to take that dome off, then the actual clutch itself, then the chain case is mad. But anyway, nothing seems to have fallen off at the moment, so that's good. I think we've still got a rear brake light, have we? Yeah. It's good. But anyway, the first run, I suppose, not bad. At least nothing sort of major happened, nothing went major bang. Obviously it'd be nice if it was all it was all perfect. I got on it and great and everything's marvelous, and but life isn't like that, is it, with old bikes? The chances of getting on it and it's marvelous and off you ride into the sunset, unlikely. But as I say, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. I'm very happy at the moment. And hopefully I can sort out what on earth that problem was, which I think might have been fuel starvation. I don't know. And then when the weather is better, and maybe when I've got that dynamo repaired, we can go out for a proper ride. Oh, and another amazing thing is that I posted some stuff, on YouTube before about it, and a previous owner, Malcolm, saw it and got in touch with me and said, "Oh, I used to own this bike back in the 80s, and I've got lots of photos and information about it." So, that's fantastic. So I'm waiting for him to send that. So that'll be really interesting. It's really good that you get stuff like that. So to find out a bit more about its previous history. Yeah, a drip tray underneath. I think that's pretty essential. I'm afraid I think that's always going to be there. That drip tray. It does like to drip. But there we go. But that's all part of the fun, isn't it? Okay, there we go. First ride complete. Hurrah.